World of Warcraft just did a 180 dot. Whatever that means.
An interview pre-chat with Ian about WoW.
Over the years, me and you have logged heads a few times about a few things, and then today you 180'd nearly everything we thought about over the last few years.
The audio levels are completely off. There's nothing I can do about it.
What's going on? And like, this is a dramatic shift, going to like account focus, the whole thing.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, it's what I laid out on the panel today. It's a mix of, we said with the technology, but we made the technology get there. It really is letting go of old stubbornness.
Yeah.
It's something we've been talking about, I think, since midway through Shadowlands. Certainly not before Shadowlands, but midway through onwards.
Well, that makes sense because midway through Shadowlands was whenever everybody quit the game. So yeah, exactly. That's totally fucking true.
That's true, but also let's just remember the fact that, well, midway through Shadowlands was like roughly the 7th time everyone quit World of Warcraft, and the graph just got worse and worse for player numbers. So, you know, I guess the 7 times the charm in this case.
And that's what it took in order for them to start listening, is everybody quit.
A mix of seeing reception to Shadowlands, a mix of also seeing how the modern player base played Classic over the course of like 2019, 2020.
I honestly think it was in reality just the fact that they saw how absolutely massive and successful Classic is. I think that's it. You know, because no one at Blizzard probably thought it's gonna be successful. So yeah, I think they honestly did Classic as more or less just a PR stunt with a skeleton crew of like 5 devs that were supposed to revitalize that thing on their spare time, and it turned out to be a major hit, and no one at Blizzard honestly expected it. I do think that honestly Blizzard is that bad of a company
that made us kind of just rethink all these assumptions about how WoW should be and what was integral to WoW versus what needed to evolve, what needed to adapt to the way players were looking to game in the modern age. And so I think, you know, for a long time, a lot of these character investments...
Okay. This pisses me off. You know what? This actually pisses me off. Because these words are hollow flatteries, okay? Oh, we needed to think about what the players want. Bruh, the players already told you 10 years ago that you're going in the wrong direction. And now you suddenly are thinking, oh, your players matter? No. You should have done that 10 years ago. You should have started to understand that you're going in the wrong direction.
Philosophies were the byproducts, were handed down from my forebears, from the people who trained me, from the original leads.
Exactly. We came into a lot of rules that were established.
And it was like, your job as game director, Ian, is to safeguard this tradition, do it well.
I think that's definitely true. And it feels like, there's a lot of things in WoW that are like that because they've always been like that. I think, for example, boss runbacks are like really good example of this. Like, there's no reason that you should have to run back to a boss. You should just respawn in front of the boss. Because clearly respawning in front of the boss isn't a problem. Because if it was, you wouldn't have bosses like, for example, Farrak.
Now, I don't know about that one, honestly, because in Diablo 4, they also haven't honestly made checkpoints valid, okay? There are situations where you die, and your respawn point is somewhere in Africa for no reason. In a dungeon, by the way. You know, you're doing the boss, maybe you went AFK, maybe you scratched your nuts and you took 3 minutes off, and you forgot you're in the game, and the boss killed you so magically how, you know? And then you respawn somewhere, I don't know, literally in the opposite side of the map. Not even close to the boss room. Blizzard doesn't even know what checkpoints are.
Where you respawn in front of the boss. So, if it is a problem, then why do some bosses have it? And if it's not a problem, then why don't all bosses have it? It doesn't make sense. Hard disagree. You need punishment for dying? You do. It's called dying. You already did get punished. You lost. You wasted your time. And this is what I'm saying. Is that you have a community of people who like having their time wasted because that's the way it's always been. It's always been like this. This is the way.
I think some people are just too stupid to understand that their time's being wasted in the first place, honestly. Hey, if you're playing retail right now, are you achieving anything? Are you? I can log in right now, do 5 minutes of catch-up gear quest, and be the same eye level as you, and you have been there grinding for three months probably. Sucks.
Way the game is. That's the way it needs to be. But the truth is that no, it's not. It doesn't have to be like that. And there's so many things like this. MMO players are conditioned to be abused. MMO players are conditioned to take pride in having their time wasted.
And so taking a step back and being like, well, no, what if the tradition's wrong now? What if the tradition was right 20 years ago but needs to change today? That can be a hard conclusion to come to, but we're certainly there now.
What was the first domino to fall? I'm really curious, because today a lot fell. It's like, okay, we're getting rid of not only the account, we're going more account focused instead of the character.
I think the domino that really fell initially was account-wide achievements and account-wide mount tab. Like, it happened like years and years and years ago, but like that was the beginning of this.
But we're also dropping, like, taxing you on moving resources around. Like, all these very established things are happening, and it felt like one thing fell, and it's like...
World of Warcraft taxes you from moving resources from a character to a character? That's so stupid. I didn't even know that.
Let's look at everything here. This no longer makes sense. This no longer makes sense. And it doesn't fit together. So was it a case of that?
I think that's probably to an extent. This run back, in my opinion, is to facilitate conversation in a group about what went wrong and what can improve for next poll. Okay, well then why don't all bosses have runbacks?
You can also just, respawn at the boss, not instantaneously pull the boss and talk about what went wrong. That also works, while you're rebuffing also.
Why is it that the last boss, who's the hardest boss, doesn't have a runback? Wouldn't you need to talk about that one the most? There's no logical consistency with that.
Yeah, I think it was, ultimately. It was asking the question of, are these principles actually making our players happier? Who are they serving? Or if we are honoring some vision, some set of values that we hold dear as developers, but it's...
I think this conversation is just flawed at the start. Because the values, what existed in the game in the first, 1 to 2 to 3 expansions, have long been forsaken and replaced with absolute... I don't know what to call them exactly. I kind of tend to gravitate towards the name inclusive gameplay, because current World of Warcraft doesn't reward you truly for actually playing the game, but it rewards you for not playing the game and being able to jump back in the game at any point without any issues at all. Which I think just completely diminishes the value that you have in your character, and, well, honestly, everything. Over the years, how many times I have started playing World of Warcraft again, you know what I do? I just start a new character. It doesn't matter that it's a rogue for the 5th time. I just start a new rogue, level, and do things and see how it is. I don't play the same character because there's literally at this point no attachment to my character. Everything has changed. Talent points, skills, gearing, raiding, zones. There's no reason for me to be attached to my character at any point in World of Warcraft.
It's alienating our players.
Yeah.
Who is that good for?
Yeah.
So it's not us, and it's certainly not them. And so I think looking at the data...
And that's what I feel like Blizzard did for such a long time, is they held on to these systems and these changes, almost in spite of the players. I think the corruption vendor was a good example of that. Or, Legion artifact weapons.
Hearing the feedback from not just our community, but also ourselves, members of the team, who all play alts as well.
Yeah. Do you think this is Microsoft telling Blizzard, okay, you start to listening to what the community says, not just instantaneously throw out all the feedback they are telling you, or you're fired? I kind of think it's probably Microsoft threatening to fire these people if they don't start listening to feedback.
Yeah.
That, the focus really, I think quality time is something that is a through line through all of this. We're trying to respect players' time, but doing that is not just, about what we do in an individual character. It's about making sure that as much of the time that you choose to spend in our world feels like high value to you, and not business.
I think that's a big reason too, and I think the big problem is that nowadays people play a lot of different games, whereas before people only used to play WoW. And I actually don't think this is a shortcoming of WoW. And I think that even WoW has cannibalized itself in a certain way. So a good example of that is Classic WoW, or Wrath of the Lich King, or Hardcore. if you're spending time farming a reputation in one game, you're not spending time farming something else. So whenever people are evaluating the time value of what they're doing, even against another version of the same game, that's bad. So yeah, I think that WoW exists in an ecosystem, whereas before, WoW was the ecosystem. Does that make sense?
Easy work, not wasting the time so that you can get to the stuff that you enjoy in the hours that you have left.
I think the caveat here is, in reality, if the game's good enough, you're not gonna care that you're not playing other games because you're playing the good game. You know, those games are never gonna be equal. You're gonna want to do one game or another game or something. The games are never equal. So you're gonna pick the best one, and World of Warcraft is not the best one anymore.
And so it's that, the product of that set of realizations, I think probably started us seriously down this path 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
But then we ran into, as I mentioned, a bunch of technical challenges where it's like, okay, you could see the piecemeal movement in these directions of
like with
more
energy.
things, unlocking on vendors and being mailable to alts and so forth. But the actual solution.
Yeah, he's right that it seemed like they started doing this towards the second half of Shadowlands, like what he said, and then afterwards it was kind of just band-aid solutions.
And required expansion level work to deliver.
I don't think it's something that's appreciated enough, right? Because we talked about it with the bag space of the actual original backpack. Because legacy reputations, like you said today, yeah, we're going there. It's going to be retroactive though. We're going to have to go backwards and backwards and backwards. And I'm sure there's some people that's can't you just copy the number out of one character and call it GG? But no, it's kind of a big effort, I assume, because you obviously would like to do it very quickly. But
yeah, exactly.
Okay, the big effort argument, so it's not actually easy to do, is kind of true. For a company that has 10 employees, we're talking now about Blizzard. Literal multiple thousands of very, very poor quality, untalented coders and employees and whatnot. I'm sure that they have no excuse. As a company as big as this has absolutely no excuse ever saying, well, it's actually not that easy technology. Bruh, they probably have literally a department that's just dedicated to creating new technologies in the game, honestly. A company like Blizzard has never any right to use the excuse, well, the technology is not that easy, actually. You have literally thousands of untalented employees working for you.
Exactly, right? I mean, and it's not, obviously, the number is not the problem, it's all the other places that reference the number. All the parts of our quest system, our player condition system, vendors, etc., that are, where are they looking and what's the source of truth for this? They're also, in the case of account.
Also, you know why this pisses me off? It's the fact that other games have also had problems like this. One of the biggest ones that I know of was League of Legends and their interaction with coding. They just completely re-scrapped the whole system in the game, okay? This happened years ago at this point. They just completely recoded the whole game. And if Riot video game developer company Tencent owned of Shillfest can do it, then they can also do it. They can also just completely rework the whole game, and they have no excuse to not do it. That's how it is. But they don't do it. They just give good excuses like, oh, there's a bunch of numbers and text and things in other places, so it's hard and whatnot. Recode the whole game. I don't care. Just make the game from scratch. I don't care.
Wide reputation, there are design challenges to work through and things.
A developer giving me excuses why their game is not good is not going to make me play the game, because now I understand the tribulations and trials of these losers. I'm just going to look at them and call them even more inept and bad at their job than before.
To come up with. We need to make sure that, we're changing our sources of reputation to also largely exist at a warband level. If that's now good. The right way to max a renown becomes, we'll just do the exact same things on 6 different characters. And because
Ooh, looks like Ian might have played a little bit of Lost Ark.
Adding
the
on
same
top,
bucket.
yeah.
Well, A, now that's unbalanced, and B,
Uh-oh.
that's actually like not fun either.
What do you... I have a 99.9% collection log completion in Lost Ark. Probably like 95 at this point because I haven't played for it yet. But where could you actually do that? The Una tasks didn't save. You can only do the rapport grinds on one character. Where could that... Oh, he means pulling resources for honing, I think. Okay.
The point shouldn't be repeat the exact same activity in multiple characters for more rewards. And so, again, all of that needs to change as well, right? We need to rethink a lot of
That
how
was
we
so
build the
stupid.
content to
I never pulled a single thing in Lost Ark and still had zero problems with the game. Never paid a single dime. Never pulled a single resource from another character. Man.
just be framed in an account level sense to look at the player behind the keyboard rather than the character that they're playing.
Oh, that's superb. I wanted to come at you with a lot of feedback I've seen from my audience, which is a lot of people who would like, they call it the WoW Exodus and all those kind of people who are very burned with Blizzard, but do want to come back, but also of like untrustworthy and they're skeptics and all that kind of stuff. And the cadence we saw from an interview with Maria earlier is that
This is a dude. Preach is asking the big questions, isn't he? Holy
Yeah,
shit!
actually true.
cadence is looking like 1.5 years per expansion. Some like slightly slower, but it seems like a roughish.
Yeah, I
kind of thing.
it's I think the key points there. I think the most important thing, like the content train has no brakes is the goal here, right? We don't want to have any
I
long.
think they've delivered on that too. Dragonflight has brought out a lot of content.
No one cares about Dragonflight, okay? Everyone is kind of unanimously agreeing at this point that Dragonflight is a good expansion, but World of Warcraft now needs to release 5 good expansions in a row, and then people are going to actually start coming back. Because at this point, after all of these years hoping that, oh, World of Warcraft is going to be good, one good expansion is not going to sell anyone to return. You need to hit like at least probably 2 or 3 good expansions in a row.
Like, it's the first time we ever had a roadmap for retail. Like, like a lot of developers say something like that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, the content train has no brakes." Sure, buddy. But like with retail, I think it's true. Yeah, they've been releasing a lot of stuff.
Pauses, any long lulls where there's nothing new going on in WoW.
But that's also a problem. I mean, if you constantly just release new stuff and make other stuff irrelevant, stuff doesn't matter.
Ever again. And now those updates come in different shapes and sizes. There's
Right.
expansions, there's big, .0 patches, then there's some of the smaller patches that we've rolled out over Dragonflight. I think we're really happy with how that mix has worked out over the last year.
It was rapid.
I think, yeah, and I think and it's going to continue. And that's what we're signing up for. That's what the future is. That's not, expansion specific. That is what the whole World Soul Saga aims to deliver. I think something that as a point of personal pride and learnings as a developer, like when I first became game director on WoW, it was.
Shouldn't this guy, by the way, be just fired? Because he has been leading World of Warcraft in the wrong direction for how many years in a row now? Shouldn't he just be, fired? And then you have a better chance at actually leading WoW in a correct direction?
During the Legion expansion, right before Legion came out. And one of the things that I will admit, I personally pushed pretty hard for was a much more rapid, aggressive, robust patch plan than we had seen in any of our previous expansions.
And to be fair, remember Legion had like a 77-day patch cadence? I think they delivered with that. Like, Legion had a lot of content.
I thought this will be amazing for players.
Yeah.
And if I may flatter myself, I think it was. But it came at the expense of Battle for Azeroth development. It came at the expense of just getting the next expansion done, but also
resources
polished.
are finite, right? Like
Exactly. Resources are finite.
Yeah.
And so and then we backed away from that for a while. We're like, oh, well, that clearly was, it's not worth sinking the next expansion in some ways to do this.
I hope they realize that they sunk Battle for Azeroth by implementing bad systems and just not tuning things properly. BFA had a lot of really great things, and BFA had a tremendous amount of content in general. Like 8.2 is one of the best patches that Blizzard has ever done in the history of WoW.
Too much content sucks, okay? I played World of Warcraft last time in Shadowlands. And what was one of the most frustrating things about Shadowlands? It was the fact that if you were casually playing the game, if you were playing it like 1 or 2 hours a day, there was no need to raid. There was no need to grind renown. There was no reason to do honestly almost anything in the game, because how it worked. You had these unlockable achievements for the story and whatnot that you needed to get so you can progress to the story, right? And I think that's one of the best examples. When you are on current track, when it just released, everyone had the same pace of actually unlocking the story. But after the next milestone of the story came out, everyone got the story catch up for the previous one. So it essentially made it like this. You can grind, do quests, and do all of this stuff, which is really time consuming, and you can get rewarded a little bit of this renown so you can get the stuff, the storyline stuff, a lot of different things, right? Or you can just not play for 2 weeks, wait for the new patch to catch you up, and then you can spend 1 hour and have the equivalent amount of things unlocked that you would previously need to spend 50 hours on. I hate when World of Warcraft just devaluates everything you do. They have made systems where it feels, well, it doesn't feel, it literally is, that if you want to be efficient with your time, you get rewarded for choosing to not play the game. It's like, okay, don't grind this because in 2 weeks' time, you are going to be able to grind in 1 hour what you previously needed to spend 20 hours on. And that's all of World of Warcraft's systems, honestly, at this point. And it just makes it so you don't want to play, you don't want to log in, because playing the game actually punishes you, because some sort of catch-up dumbass mechanic is always going to completely just make everything you have done previously irrelevant in 5 minutes. I hate it. I don't want these constant patches. Make the content harder in some way. Make it more rewarding for playing, not for AFKing and then you doing a catch-up quest or two. Then you kind of start to slowly fix WoW, in my opinion.
It was insane how big 8.2 was. So I'm not going to shit on BFA for that at all. The reason why BFA was bad is because you couldn't trade Azerite gear at the beginning. It's because you couldn't respec Azerite gear easily. You needed 3 versions of the same helmet, 1 for each spec. It was stupid. That's like, you need a corruption vendor. You had to do visions 4 times before your raid to make sure that your cloak was upgraded. Like, these were the problems with the game then. It had nothing to do with, like, the amount of content. It had to do with how you interfaced with the content. They could have left 8.3 out for 6 more months, and it probably would have been fine, as long as they gave people the ability to play other classes with full corruptions. But because the systems were so suffocating, people just wanted to get out of the game, because it was actually a fun game to play.
But I think both, learning from experience, but also growing the team and investing in the team and doing things like our acquisition of Proletariat last year to kind of continue to marshal the resources that we need, have gotten us to a point now where I think we can pull this off, where we can deliver the patch content that we did during Dragonflight and still be set for something as ambitious as the World Soul Saga, as War Within, as the next step.
I think the big concern that I have with a lot of this newer content is that, like, I feel like a lot of it is like flash in the pan. Like, you do it for a few months and then you never do it again. And I would like if the big systems that are super successful, they took an approach kind of like PoE, where they go kind of core, where these systems now become part of the base game, kind of, and they exist on an account-wide level. Like, I would really, really like that.
Yep,
Because right
makes
now, I
sense.
think it's a huge problem. Yeah, like dragon riding. I think dragon riding's the best example I can give for that. I just hope they do more of that. That way, like, you don't add in this cool new crazy system and then nobody gives a shit about it after 6 months.
Now, in terms of the content, the cadence within,
World of Warcraft should just steal more Guild Wars 2 stuff. Because a lot of things in Guild Wars 2 are actually pretty successful. Dragon Riding, if you did not know, is a blatant one-for-one copy of the Guild Wars Flying Mountain mechanic. They should steal more. Because, you know, a lot of games do a lot of good stuff.
the saga itself, I think our goal is, as Chris said, faster than it has been. Certainly faster than the 2+ years where, you know, it'll take until the end of the day.
But don't be like Elder Scrolls Online and steal World of Warcraft's worst decision ever, Torghast, okay? Yeah, steal good stuff like from Guild Wars 2. Not like ESO just stole Torghast.
Decade to finish the story. That's not what anyone is signing up for. But beyond that, I think we're going to, be guided by our community, make sure that, we also give the content time to breathe. And that if we're going to a new zone, we're going to a new raid, we're not rushing you through it just to get to the next step of the story. We want to still make sure that all of it feels rich and deep and that we're earning every step of that journey.
Yeah.
One final note, just I guess I've seen questions raised on the internet and elsewhere. Like,
the skeptics are out in force at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, is this like shrinkflation? Like
Yes.
how
Bro, he brought it up like he didn't even answer a question. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Shrinkflation?
Good question. That would mean more tame expeditions without doing more exciting additions. Game would be bloated as fuck. Well, I think that keeping a I think that they should just do what PoE does, right? Where like whenever each league comes out, the league exists in core like this. Right? So it's not like each league is like this. They all exist like this. So yeah, I definitely definitely think.
Well, to be honest, there's no correct answer to how to handle it. It's like, you can do it as PoE, but at some point you're gonna run into problems. You can do it in other ways, but at some point you're gonna run into problems. There is no one unified solution to making the game good. It's just they need to manage things. For example, I hate catch-up mechanics, but I'm not actually saying that all catch-up mechanics shouldn't exist or whatever. I'm just saying they shouldn't be they shouldn't reward you as hard as they do for, not playing the game and logging in one time in 5 years. But, they probably should still exist on some level. They just shouldn't be as overpoweredly dumb and, degratifying as they currently are. And that's for most mechanics. If they just were toned down a little bit, or toned up in some cases, the game would be better.
People think this, the shrinkflation. Shrinkflation is whenever, instead of raising the price of something, they lower the amount of food that you get, right? So instead of like a 16-ounce drink, now you get a 12-ounce drink.
Oh, I haven't heard that in forever. Wow. Yeah, oh wow. I forgot about that. Huh. I haven't heard about that since the Toblerone incident. That was years ago at this point.
$5, and now it's still $5, but you get less.
you get fewer chips in your bag of chips.
Yeah, you're just trying to push it
crisps.
out to sell an expansion 6 months quicker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, no, these are expansions, right?
Exactly.
War Within has 4 zones and 8 dungeons and a raid and new levels and
Hot take. That's the problem. You need something more. You need to reinvent the game. You've got to reinvent the game. Like, I get it. And, you know, retail WoW is a known entity. It's existed for 20 years.
Yeah.
But, like, the last...
He's right, by the way. You need to pretty much reinvent the game at this point. You need to look at what actually works in the game, what needs to be nerfed, what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be completely deleted from it. At this point, you need to rework the whole game at this point. There's nothing else that can honestly be said about this.
Last time that WoW really reinvented itself was Legion. I feel like every patch in Legion...
I mean, that's a horrible mistake also. People who played Legion say it's good, because it wasn't that bad as an expansion, I guess. But man, if you followed the lore, if you knew the lore, it just sounded so shitty. Oh, this is an alternative Draenor. Everything you know and loved about the Lord now just gets... Yeah, not that great. Kind of sad, in fact, by the way. It is what it is.
Legion and after Legion, I'm just playing the same patch. But after Legion, I really felt like I was playing a different game than I was in Warlords of Draenor or in Mists of Pandaria. Like, I think that the problem is that, oh, well, what do you mean? We're adding 4 new zones. We're adding 8 new dungeons. That's not...
Yep.
I don't think, like, that we got enough dungeons. We got enough zones. Like,
yeah, he thinks the same as me, probably, here, right? I don't like the fact that for a month, this is the zone that matters, and after a month, that zone no longer even is relevant. I don't like that. I really don't. I like it if there's a world and all of the world is impactful. I don't like it when it's just one zone and after a month, congratulations, here's your new zone. Everything you did in the last zone, irrelevant, by the way. Have a nice day, namaste, bitch.
Add depth, and like maybe delves are gonna be that, right? Add delves to their depth, right? I mean, I don't know. We'll see. But we need something that's like innovative that makes the game feel fresh again. And Legion made the game feel fresh. For all of its problems and all of its, I don't know, like setbacks and everything, it did make the game feel fresh.
We're not going to talk much in detail, but Midnight, I can say, we'll have 4 zones and dungeons and a raid. Like, these are expansions as you've come to know them.
Yeah.
And we're just going to, not have gaps. And we're going to be ambitious and purposeful as we unfold the story.
Yeah, I think it's such a big move. From what we've seen in the past, where expansions have been all self-contained, one-and-done sort of scenarios.
Yeah.
How has it been internally with like seemingly now a 7-year-ish plan that has a very clear and distinct, actually, beginning, middle, and end with War Within and then Nightmare and then last.
That's really good. That's I talked about this before. I love the fact because that means we're gonna have fleshed out characters. Imagine a World of Warcraft lore where it's like, oh, this magical place that we didn't know exists now. And hello, champion. I am Spoon. Love me now, for I am a main character of the series. You have spent 0 time with me. You have seen me do 0 things, but I am important. Love me for that. They're gonna finally be able to actually flesh out characters. In the last 10 years, World of Warcraft has not had a single fleshed out character. I mean, even the characters that have longevity at this point, they have at best gotten ruined, aka my mommy Sylvanas. It is what it is. Anyway, I'm done. This is Squizzer said, thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.